Hey, this is Ken Finnan at Capital Advantage Tutoring, and it's my job to get you past the Series 66 exam, the Series 65, and the Series 63 exam. This is the second time doing this. I did the other one. I did the whole 20-minute video, all that stuff. And then when I got on to, and I went to go edit it and all that stuff, as idiot editor I am, the whole left side was gone. It was scrunched in. I think I have a couple of videos where I did that. I think I fixed it. So hopefully it works this time and I'm not driving myself fucking nuts. Okay, so here's the question today becomes, can I sell a security in a state? That's what we want to know, and that's what we're going to figure out today. Can I sell a security in a state? Am I allowed? This is not about you. This is not about you, the agent or the IIR. It's about whether this security is allowed to be sold in a state based on what the administrator says. So let's get into it. Okay, so the big question is, can I sell my security in the state? But let me get a drink first. Hey, I'm just going to pop in here and say, listen, if you've gotten this far, please hit like, subscribe, share this shit, get this out to other people. So we have to ask ourselves, can I sell the security in a state? So it comes down to this. One of these three things has to be a yes. Either it has to be registered, an exempt security, exempt issuer, or an exempt transaction. One of those three things. Now let's talk about the basics behind this, first of all. Registered means you're actually registered. You've done all the stuff, you've done the work, you're registered. An exempt security means it's issued by a security, it's issued by an issuer, multiple words, where you don't have to register. Okay. It's still a security, but because of law, it doesn't have to register. A lot of times it's because it's pre-existing law or something like that. Now, an exempt transaction is for non-exempt securities. I can't say that enough. Exempt transactions are for non-exempt securities, okay? These are for securities that would normally have to register, but because of the way you're doing it, whether it's a private placement or you're selling it to rich people or whatever it is, you don't have to register it. Okay, so we have registered, exempt security, exempt transaction. If you want to sell a security in the state, one of these has to be a yes. If none of them are a yes, you can't sell the fucking thing. So let's go. So let's start with this registered. We'll start with one state only. Boom, look at that nice. So if it's qualification, it's sold in one state only called intrastate. There's no time limit. The admin can take as long as they want, but the admin declares you're effective. Okay, the administrator does. There's no SEC jurisdiction other than obviously for anti-fraud. So this is for if it's in one state. If I was going to go issue my Capital Advantage tutoring shares in New York on only, that would be qualification, and it can't be sold outside the state. Good. Now let's say we're going to go outside the state, more than one state, okay? More than one state, but not federally covered, okay? It pretty much means it's not traded on an exchange. So if it's more than one state, so if I'm going to issue my securities in New York and New Jersey and Pennsylvania, I'm going to have to register in all three states plus the SEC because I crossed the state line. Remember, so if you do stuff in one state, the SEC doesn't really have jurisdiction, again, other than anti-fraud. But once you cross the state line, you now have crossed state lines, you have federal jurisdiction, and then you have to register with the SEC and the state. And that's the whole 20-day review, if you remember from the Series 7 or even the 6 or even the SIE. Then the SEC decides when you're effective, and as long as you filled out the paperwork in time, usually means 10 days before the effective date, the states go along with you. They don't really have an option. They have jurisdiction over things, but they don't get to say no. Now, this one's the most confusing, and it's the most complicated. Filing by notification, okay? It's just for big fucking companies. That's what you have. The big companies, they can do filing. That's not the same as notice filing, which is for federally covered securities, okay? Mutual funds, Reg D, stuff like that. Big difference. So that's not really registration. This is one that they don't even think they do it any fucking more. But the point is, qualification is one state. Coordination is more than one state, not federally covered. Filing or notification is for big fucking companies. There's a lot of fucking rules on that. And then notice filing is for mutual funds and stuff like that. So let's not be confusing here. Let's hide it back. Okay, now, exempt securities. These are securities that will never have to register on the state level, ever. So bring them down. What do we got? Any federal government, not just ours, any federal government. Okay. US, Canada, Brazil, Mexico, all the other countries, if they issue securities in the US, they don't register with the state. Now remember, this is what, can I sell it in a state? Banks don't. They're like fucking ghosts. They don't have to do anything. They're like, they have laws dating back to Magna Carta, so we're not going to write laws to affect them. Utilities don't have to write. Let's bring up the whole thing. Boom, so you can read it. Common carriers, insurance companies in the state. Now remember, when they say stuff like insurance companies issuing, they don't mean that they're selling their variable annuities that are exempt. It's talking about if you're buying shares in the company or bonds from the actual, you're investing in the actual insurance company, not buying their products. US and Canadian unis, charitable, nonprofit, religious. And then we have the Fed covered securities, stock exchange, mutual funds, Reg D. When I say mutual fund, I really mean investment companies. I'm just lazy. And then shares sold to qualified purchasers. What the hell is a qualified purchaser? Is someone who has at least 5 million net worth. 5 million. Not like qualified client, which is the 2.2. So this is exempt securities. So we go down the list and I go, okay, here's the first thing. So I want to sell the security in a state. Is it qualified? Can I do registration by qualification, coordination, or are these? If this is a yes, then we're good to go. If it's no, we go to the next list. Boom, we look at this list. If it's on this list, we can sell it. Now, the next step is, what if it's not on these lists? We go to the next list. These are exempt transactions. These are securities that are non-exempt securities. Remember, these are securities that would normally have to register, but because of the way you're doing them, you don't have to. It's like a one-off, okay? These are like, it's just they're non-exempt. So they normally would have to register, but I'm doing them in a separate, special way, so I don't have to. So one, unsolicited non-issuer. That's the customer calling you and wanting to buy shares, but not from the company, from another person. Isolated non-issuer, a lot non-issuer stuff, right? Isolated non-issuer means it's like a trade between Bobby and Mary or Bobby and Joe or Lisa and Mark, whatever it is. The issuer is not involved. It's a one-time thing. It's not a regular and routine. If I sell to institutions, that's an exempt transaction. Look at this thing. This is the way this is working is the rules are there to protect the retail investor from the big bad issuer and the evil broker dealer. So if the customer is calling the broker dealer, well, that's their problem. Okay. So we allow the unsolicited because that's the customer calling. But we also were not protecting institutions. They don't want to be protected. They want the freedom to buy things that retail can't. And as a trade-off, they don't get the same protections. It's the way it works. It's good and bad. Also, a private placement. If we sell a private placement, which means we're selling to all institutional clients, but up to 10 non-institutional / retail, no more than that, okay? Also, what about a trustee, a sheriff, an executor for an estate or a bankruptcy? So if someone dies, the trustee or the administrator or the executor I shouldn't have said administrator, but the sheriff would need to sell securities maybe to pay the beneficiaries. So they're not going to make my company register an estate just because Aunt Tilly moved to Jersey and then died. And then I'm not going to have to register my shares there. So it's an exempt transaction. Again, a one-off. It's not an ongoing. It's not like once I do this, I can keep selling it. Every single time I would have to have some sort of exemption. Now, the next one is issuer selling to employees. Boom. If an issuer is selling to our employees, exempt transaction. An issuer selling to an underwriter. So if I was going to go public, I would sell my shares to like Morgan Stanley or JP Morgan or Goldman. And they're the underwriter and they would end up registering it. But my sale to the underwriters, exempt transaction. Our pre-org certificate, that's one. So a pre-org certificate is set up ahead of time, max of 10 people. And then the last one is, I don't know if I wrote it, bona fide pledges. You can call it bona fide if you want to talk Latin, but it's bona fide pledgee, which means you're not trying to deceive or lie, and it's honest. Okay. A pledge for a security or loan. Okay. So again, let's make sure we got this. If I want to sell a security in a state, I have to say, is it registered? Yes, then I'm good. If no, it's like a flow chart. I go to the next one. If this is yes, good to go. If no, I go to this list. If it's not, then it's a big fat no. If it's none of these are a yes, it cannot be sold in the state. Do you notice it has nothing to do with the agent of the IIR? Because the agent of the IIR has to be either exempt or not on their own merits, not on the security. So keep that in mind. Whether a security is exempt or not has no bearing on whether the agent or IIR has to be registered. I hope that helps. Please like, subscribe, share. Let's get past this 66, 65, 63 exams and get done and start making your million. Have a great day.